today. Thank you for being here. We're in for quite the treat today. Our Alaska team is back, and so I also want to welcome those who are joining in live stream today. Thank you so much for being a part. You're going to be blessed with this as well as we get to see some videos, a couple pictures, and then hear from the team who are back here today. I do have to give, actually they're not in here right now, but still I want to give a shout out to a couple of people the past couple of weeks, but Mr. Stowe and Danny, well, Danny's back there, have knocked this parking lot out of the park, just restriping it. Well, they didn't restripe it and seal it. We had a company come in, but they did take the stops, and we pulled those up, painted them, we're put them back in place. We have to buy a few more because we reconfigured some things, but can we thank Mr. Stowe and Danny for all their hard work? Isn't it great you can see where you're parking now? That's a big deal, isn't it? So, but I do want to welcome back my boys, Nathan and Gabriel. I said last week, I'm like, what did I do wrong? Nathan and Gabriel. Yeah. I said last week, Stash and I got a little preview, I guess, to what empty nesting would be like. And we liked it. It was great. Not a lot of dishes around the house. It stayed clean, and it was wonderful. Also want to welcome back Luke and Emma. Luke led the team. So Aaron, it's good to have you back too, buddy. And then we'll hear from Kayla and Jaden as well. They're going to come up here in just a few moments. So what we're going to do is we're going to hear from them. We're going to show a video. While that video is going on, they're going to be getting set in place. So you'll kind of see them moving, but just keep your attention on the screen. Luke gives us a little bit of an idea of where they were staying, and then there's going to be a question and answer time where they're going to share what God did in Alaska. And I'm just thankful we had 3 missions trips planned this year, and we only got to take 1 because of COVID. And so I'm thankful that this group got to do it. Luke will tell you more about that. Let's get this video going.
Hey, Abundant Life. Just wanted to give you a quick little tour of where we're staying this week at Alaska. We're riding on the 4-wheeler. This is Paradise Found. This is Joel and Trish Buchanan's house. It's where we're doing a lot of the firewood cutting, a lot of the work to help these missionaries so that they can be part of the community here, and we can help donate and do a lot of things. So right there, that's Trish. Trish is one of the Buchanans. She and Joel live here at Paradise Found. They're one of our missionaries. And this is their place. This is where we did to help out. So this is Joel and Trish's house here. Let me show you just how close they are to the beach and the beautiful view. So you'll see the mountains here and the gorgeous sky. It's nice and sunny today. It's been raining for the past couple of days. We get to go out on the water tomorrow and hopefully get some fish to donate to the other locals. But here, check out this view. As you can see, it's pretty gorgeous out here, right near the water. You get that fresh, crisp breeze. It's been a great week. We're having a ton of fun. We're working hard, resting hard, having a great time getting to help Joel and Trish and Dave and their work here on Prince of Wales Island. We love you guys. We thank you so much for helping send us here. It's been a great trip, and we're going to see you Sunday when you're watching this video. But until then, we'll see you later.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Luke Ellington. I'm the associate pastor here at Abundant Life, and I had the pleasure of getting to lead this team to Alaska this past week. So it's good to see some new faces. We're just happy to have you here. So I'm just going to share a little bit about what we did, where did we go, who did we help, give a little bit of information so that you guys can help understand the mission that we did, and it helps to invest your hearts into it as well. And so we're just going to go through that. So the first thing is, where did did we go? So we went to Prince of Wales, Alaska, which is an island in the southeast region of the state. So if you look at the state, there's a stretch of islands that comes down. Prince of Wales is one of those islands. Specifically, we stayed in the northern part of the island in Kaufman Cove. And so just to give you an idea of how long it took to get there, we had to drive to the airport. So we had a couple people help us out there to get us to the airport. Then we flew from Charlotte to Atlanta to Seattle and then to Ketchikan in Alaska. And then we had a boat ride over to mainland and then another boat ride to the island and then a 2-hour drive to get to where we were staying. So Gabe actually timed it on the way home. It took 26 hours of traveling to get from when we got in the car to when we got in our homes, 26 hours. So it was quite the trip. It was very long. So this picture here, so this picture here, that's Prince of Wales Island. As you can see from the northern to the southern point, that's 131 miles. That's how long it is. And to give you a frame of reference, that's the same distance from downtown Charlotte to downtown Raleigh, to give you an idea of just how big the island is. Let me tell you a little bit about Prince of Wales. The lifestyle is a lot different than what we have here in North Carolina. We have a lot more amenities and luxuries that to them are just not available. A good reference is everything is more expensive. So gas starts at $3 a gallon. It's even more expensive on the island. A 24 pack of water here is usually $3 to $4. There it's $14. And then I was curious about this price. I was in one of the local stores and one Twinkie was $4, which is crazy. That's outrageous because normally you get a whole box of them. But all right, there's drastic weather changes and extremes. There is rain and wind and snow and colder weather. It is a lot more different. It's more different than what we expect here. So when we got home, we landed here. We got outside out of Charlotte Airport and we went, oh, it's hot. But we had nice, cool weather. It was raining a lot while we were there. Some points we were shivering cold, but for the most part, we were able to stay dry and have a good time. And then the winter there is 6 to 8 months out of the year, depending on the year and depending on what happens. It's 6 to 8 months. So they primarily rely on wood stove heating, which means getting the wood out of the lumber yards, chopping it up, and hauling it upstairs, letting it sit for a couple of years to season and be prepared to burn. But they, during the summers, their daytime is about 20 to 21 hours. During the winter, reverse that. So the nighttime is about 20 to 21 hours. So the only time I actually saw it was dark up there was when we woke up at 3 a.m. And even then, it was like 9 p.m. here, is to give you an idea. It never gets really dark during the summer. So, a couple other facts about Prince of Wales. There's only one clinic on the island that's open 24/7. It's volunteer ran, but the closest hospital is 3 hours away on the mainland. So if you get hurt, you've got to catch a boat or plane back to the mainland, to the hospital. And so accidents can happen and you got to be careful. You got to know how to handle things and to just make sure that you can navigate your tools properly. You know how to work together as a team to make sure we're reducing as many risks as possible, because it can be pretty dangerous working with some of that stuff. And so we had a girl from one team previous year that her hand was on a stump when another guy was bringing his maul down and smashed her pinky. And so she wasn't able to get it treated until their trip finished a week later, just to give you an idea of how difficult it is to get medical help there. There's only 2 state troopers on the entire island. There's no local cops or law enforcement. So if something happens, if there's an issue or a dispute, you better be hoping to wait a couple hours for the cops to show up. All fire and EMT departments are volunteer ran there. So the one that was in our local town, it's barely ever used because people work and then they volunteer that on the downtime. And it's not even a full ambulance. It's a truck with like a carriage in the back. So next thing is there's only 3 grocery stores on the entire island. There's a couple thousand people that live there, but there's 3 grocery stores. So who did we help? The first people that you'll see here, this is Joel and Trish Buchanan. They moved there to Prince of Wales after they got married, and then they met each other, fell in love because they both had Jesus in common, and then they got married and moved over to Prince of Wales, and they developed and built the land with the help of a couple missions teams, and they named this place Paradise Found. So it references the verse when Jesus is hanging on the cross, and he says to the sinner, "Surely you will be with me in paradise." And so it's such a beautiful place. They call it Paradise Found. So, and you can see that picture. They built that from the ground up because it's a lot different building there. You can't just hire contractors or developers to come out. You've got to know how to do a lot of it yourself, and you've got to be able to put the work in, get the wood, get all the tools. It's quite the process getting up there. And so we actually got to help with another missionary that's doing the same thing for their property in the starting stages. So just to give you an idea, you can go to that picture of Joel and Trish again. Joel is an electrician in Ketchikan, so he spends 5 days away from home off the island, and whatever work the teams aren't able to do, he has to do on his weekends off. So he works on the mainland, which means he has to catch a ferry ride and then a 2-hour drive just to get back home every single weekend. So he's not able to be home during the day to help out with just everyday maintenance. Trish, she works at one of the 3 grocery stores on the island. Her commute is about an hour and a half one way. So she spends 3 hours driving to her job each day. Any work that has to be done throughout the week is up to her to do, which can be dangerous to do by herself sometimes, some of that stuff. The next person that we helped out is Dave Jackson. Him and his wife are from Oregon. He came up with a team from Beaverton, a Foursquare church up there, fell in love with the place, bought some property, and he decided he wanted to do the same thing as Joel and Trish, to build a house to house missionaries to help the people of Prince of Wales. And so they just purchased the property, and now they're in the process of developing the land with the same intentions. So just to give you an idea of our team and just how God was going before us is, as soon as I got in the truck with, this is my wife Emma, for those that haven't met us, as soon as we got in the truck with Joel and the other team, they were in the shuttle bus, and we were driving to the house. The rest, he told us that he had received a word about our team, which was no fear, because due to the pandemic, due to COVID, all but our team canceled their trips. They were supposed to have 6 to 10 missions teams coming up to their place to do work. All of them canceled except for ours. And so all the work that they had planned out for this entire year now got reduced to this 1 week that we were able to help with. So, but the thing is, I knew God wanted us to be there. I knew that even if it was just to provide the necessities for them to make it through to next year, I knew that God had us. And it was very evident that he was going before us in the way that he protected us, made sure that we were everywhere on time. We initially were going to go and help the natives and the Native Americans that are up there. There's the Haida and Tlingit tribes. We were planning to go and help with their villages, but because of COVID, they said, we don't want foreigners, because to them, we're the foreigners. They've been there for hundreds of years. Us city people from the lower 48, we're the foreigners. So they didn't want us to potentially bring in something. There's a lot of fear going around with this COVID stuff. And so a lot of them are elderly people, and it could wipe out their entire village if we weren't careful. And so our intentions and our focus for this trip changed from the villages to missionary support, because it's very important that we support our missionaries. So this meant coming alongside them for practical projects and work that helps them maintain themselves and those in need during the winter. It meant encouraging them and fellowshipping with them. It's important that we give spiritual support to our missionaries, especially because their interactions and conversations with Christians are so limited throughout the year. So we were there just to help spiritually equip them, encourage them, and bolster them. So we did devotions with them every single night out of the book of Galatians. We spoke words of prophecy and life into them. We shared communion with them, and they only did to do that 2 to 3 times a year, whereas we did to do that like once, twice a month sometimes. So they did to do it with people like this to just share in God's fellowship. And then we also prayed for healing and fruitful ministries. We got to speak life into what they're doing and the work that's going on there. So just to give you an idea, this is kind of the work that we did there. This team, they were workhorses. They did a great job just going at it full time. We worked hard and we rested hard. So one of the first things that we did was we stacked firewood. So when we arrived, this picture on the left, that much wood was waiting for us. It was already chopped, but it had to be stacked. And so in order to do that, if you look at this next picture, they have a 3-story house. The bottom floor is technically a garage / workshop. But the first floor, the top floor is what they use for 1 year. So you can see that it's on each side and it also wraps around each side. That's how much wood that they go through a winter just to help keep their house warm. And so once they use that, then they need to rotate the next stuff. So what we helped to do was we rotated all that wood. There was nothing on the top floor. So we brought everything from the second floor to the first floor, from the third to the second, then from the new stuff over to the house. And so that was a big, pretty grueling project, right? Carrying all that wood up 3 flights of stairs, going back up and down, stacking, hauling wheelbarrows. So that was one of the first things we did. But this team was so awesome. They did all of that rotating before lunch on the first day. Like, these guys killed it. They did so good. A lot of us, you can go to the next one, and the next couple learned how to chop wood. So Gabe, Nate, Aaron learned how to split wood because they'd never done it before. Well, oh yeah? Oh, did you? So they got to learn how to split some wood because some of that wood's pretty knotted and warped, and so it's hard to split. But they learned by the end of it, you guys were chopping it like butter. And then the girls were dodging all the flying pieces in order to, they'd get down there and they'd grab a couple, then they'd stack it just to help get the wood out of the way so that we could keep chopping. So that picture there, this is one of the locals that helped drive us to the ferry. His name is Chaz, and that's his house, but he works so much on the mainland, he's barely at this house in Prince of Wales. So what we stacked and chopped there, and you're seeing in this picture, is a year's supply for him. So he wasn't even at his house when we came, but now when he comes back, he's going to have a year's supply worth of wood to heat his home already chopped and stacked for him. So that's just one of the locals that we were able to help. One of the next things we did, which was one of Gabe's and Jaden's favorite things to do, was cut kindling. Has anyone had to cut kindling before for a fire? It can be a pretty tedious process. Usually Joel and Trish, they spend their winter nights doing this. They listen to some music and just chop away by themselves. But if you go through those pictures to the last one of the boxes, we were able to provide 15 boxes of kindling for them. That is a 1.5 year supply. And just to give you an idea of Joel and Trish's heart about people and the locals there is, as soon as we said there's 15 boxes, they said, great, we have plenty to give away. So they're probably going to give half, if not more than that, to people that aren't physically able to cut the kindling themselves or provide it for them. So for us, it seemed like we were sitting on stumps just chopping wood for a couple of days. But it's going to help provide life and warmth to people on the island that we've never even met. Because we were able to do that job for Joel and Trish, now they can provide it for other people. It's about planting seeds. It's about creating those relationships. One of the other things that we did was we helped to work on their love shack. So this left building here, that's called their love shack. It's basically just a cabin that they used to house more missionaries. They realized what they had in their home wasn't enough space. We want more people here to come and do more work and help out. So they built another place for that. Well, there were 2 jobs that needed to be finished, aside for some small projects, just to provide that additional housing, which was tiling the kitchen and bathroom and sanding the shelves for storage. Both projects Joel wasn't expecting to get to for a couple of months. So it was either God or pure coincidence. I say it was God, that he sent someone on our team that just happened to have the knowledge and ability to lay and grout tile, which was Kayla. She helps to restore and flip homes. And so isn't that awesome? You know, a job they didn't think they would get to now is getting covered and done months ahead of time when he would have to do it on his weekends. So also me and Aaron helped to sand and get the wood ready money for shelving there because they can't just go and buy shelves from Walmart or Home Depot. None of those are on the island. There's no Walmart, there's no Home Depot, there's no Target, there's no Lowe's. So the wood, the shelves that they get mostly comes from the trees they cut down. And so we got to help sand down a lot of the shelves there to go onto their storage so that they can have more people to do there. So the next thing is we helped to develop Dave's property. Dave is one of the missionaries. Can you show that picture? I might have skipped it. It's right after Joel and Trish's. Dave Jackson. Oh yeah, I did talk about him. So Dave, he fell in love with the place so much that he bought property there. And so we got to be in the beginning phases of developing it. This meant cutting down small trees. We called it logging, even though it wasn't big stuff, it was little stuff, cutting down trees, throwing them down the hill, getting rid of overburden and brush so that they could bring professional loggers to come in and get the developing the process going for his home. And this was a huge help to Dave in order to get his process going for that. And it was pretty rough out there. We're right on the coast, as you can see. So the wind and the rain was just battering us. It was freezing cold. And it was a pretty hard day of work, but we made it through. But the great thing is that our team was able to be one of the starting processes, one of the starting teams that helped to get this land. So now 10 to 15 years from now, when missionaries are there, staying there to help do God's work, we were able to be a part of the story that built that place. So that's an awesome thing. This next one I'm going to let Nate talk about. He got to help with some of the vehicle maintenance and other things, which that's another God thing, is we just so happened to have someone that had some mechanic skills on the team, and so they needed some mechanic stuff done, and so he was able to help. So Nate, why don't you tell us a little bit about that and what you did to help them?
So they have 3 quads. Now keep in mind, these are not quads that they go and have fun on. These are all work quads. He said they've never, like maybe once or twice they've driven it down to the lake, but they use them for work. So this is the second time since 2004 that those brakes have been touched. They were just super mushy and they haven't been touched since 2010. So I was just able to open them up, clean them, bleed them, and bring them back to new, as well as another one of their loaner quads, they call it. The person that last had rolled it, so it bent everything up underneath. So I replaced a couple brackets, some support pieces and whatnot, found some more things that needed to be replaced. All the batteries got switched, terminal switched, cleaned them. Just basic maintenance that Joel really didn't have time to get around to.
Yeah, which that took you about a day or two to do. So that would take him by himself, maybe a week's worth of time to do over a course of a couple weeks. So that was a great help that we had. We had him working on that project. We had Kayla and Emma working on the tile and the love shack, and then we were cutting, kindling, and doing other odd jobs. So we were all spread out doing different things that we had expertise in, and we were able to help with. The last thing that we did was fishing, and I say that with quotations because we didn't catch much, unfortunately. So we were catching salmon and halibut is what is their main source of food there is fish, and that's what they eat. And so knowing where to fish and where not to fish. So that's the way I give it a positive, is that we were able to help them know where not to put their lines, where not to catch fish. So now they can try different places. But we had a good time. One day we spent river fishing, trying to get salmon. The next day we spent on the ocean trying to get halibut. We got to see a lot of good, wildlife, cool things. We saw whales breaching and spouting. We saw sea otters sitting on the water, jellyfish, starfish, stuff like that. We pulled up 2 sharks on the line. They don't eat them there. It's not a delicacy, so they just throw them back. But got to see a lot of wildlife. Jaden here and Emma are the VIPs for fishing because they're the only ones that actually brought up fish we could keep. You can see over here on the grill here are some sea bass that they caught and we were able to eat. A couple of them had never had, fish on the fire before. Some of them got to eat some of the fish eyes because that's a delicacy up there. I personally definitely wouldn't touch it, but these guys did. They ate some of them. So big props to them. And so that was we spent 4 days doing wood, small projects and stuff like that around their house. 2 days we spent fishing, and the last day we got to do some sightseeing just to see the island that we're helping to serve and the people that we're helping with. So we got to go to a fish hatchery, fish ladder where the salmon spawn, where they run, a couple viewpoints. As you can see, it's a very gorgeous place. It's if you've ever wanted to see God's creation in its finest form, I say go to Alaska, because it's amazing. It literally takes your breath away at some points. It's just so gorgeous. So that's basically it regarding the information I'm going to provide you. We are going to do a Q&A with a couple of questions. If we have time, we'll open it up to the congregation to ask questions. But I want you guys to hear from them and what they experienced and what they got. But just to give you an idea, even though we didn't directly work with the natives and the villages, the work we did with Joel, Trish, and Dave helps to free up their time to minister to the people in Prince of Wales. So our focus went from villages to missionary support, because like I said, we need to support our missionaries. So now we're going to do a Q&A. So I'm going to start with asking the questions, and we're just going to go down the line about what did they experience, what were their thoughts, stuff like that. Okay. So first question being for Nate, and then we'll go down, each of you answering, what was the best and most rewarding part of the trip for you?
Just seeing their faces light up whenever we were able to help them. I didn't mention this, but after I finished working on the quad, he kind of backed it up and tested the brakes, and just see his face light up and smile, because it's kind of important to be able to stop. But we had a couple of those moments throughout the week.
Just being able to get them 4 years worth of firewood and a year and a half worth of kindling, so that way Joel can take his day off to be with his wife.
Besides the food on the ferry, I got to share my story of struggle with addiction for like 15 years. And like the very next day, they opened up with a loss of their son through that. And it was just a really good bonding moment. And really, I'm thankful for just being able to share that with him.
Probably the firewood, even though it was very tedious to carry and stack it. It was very rewarding to see their faces, to see like that's just 4 years worth of firewood for them that we get to do that other people did not get to do because they were scared of COVID.
Joel and Trish, just seeing how God has provided in their life, and for needs that they don't know how to fulfill. They both have full-time jobs. They work so hard on their own house, and also to help other people all over the island. And then when they get something that they can't do, God sends someone, bam, right there to help them. They were laying concrete when they were building the house, and they didn't know what they were doing. They had a group over, and some random guy shows up, and he's like, "Hey, I heard you guys needed help." And he had worked his way through college pouring concrete, so he knew exactly what to do and got it laid out. They never saw him again, but he came there, and he was there when they needed him. And they have 5 or 6 stories like that. And then I got there, and they're like, "You know how to do tile? That's our last job for this one. We don't know how to do that." I was like, "Well, throw us in there." So we got that done. Just seeing how God would provide for them.
In a selfish way, the whales, those are so cool. I'd never seen that before, so I was going crazy over that. But really, though, the best part was just seeing the response from Joel and Trish. Their hearts were so touched by it, and just like Nate said, their faces just lit up. Seeing Joel's face when he realized he didn't have to worry about his wife trying to chop wood in the middle of the winter when he's not there, or worry about kindling or anything like that. It was just so cool to see that he didn't have to worry, and that relief was just there for him. And then that their first response was, "Let's give it to other people. Now we can, great, thank you guys so much, now we're going to use that for someone else." It was never about themselves, and that was pretty incredible.
Best and most rewarding part for me was getting to lead such an amazing team, getting to see each of them work hard, not complain, push through the hard work in the cold weather. They did a great job. They had great attitudes, and it was honestly, it was my first time getting to lead a missions trip, and it couldn't have been easier because I had such a great team as support, and that was definitely the most rewarding part for me. What was the hardest or most challenging thing for you during this trip?
Patience. Being out on the boat for, a day and then fishing for a day and not catching anything. You learn to be patient with that. Chopping firewood, those knotty pieces, you just have to be patient and keep hitting at them. So.
What's the question? Hardest / challenging thing.
The first day, just having to carry firewood up and down the stairs multiple at a time, that was pretty difficult.
The rain was really wet and cold. So.
The first and second day, like stacking wood and logging. Well, not really logging, but we were just out in the rain, freezing cold, stepping on rocks, tripping, falling. It was very tedious, and but it was fun. I'd like to do it again if possible.
The worst part for me was probably the trip home. It was just, man, it was tedious. It was like 26 hours. So it was like, whew, it was a lot. That and just realizing what a lazy bum I am compared to these guys who work full-time jobs and cut all their own wood and just, they never have a spare moment. And they're so happy and they just feel the Holy Spirit and they know how rich they are.
It was a combination for me of doing all that work that first day, just carrying all that wood. I am not fit. That really pushed me. But doing all that wood was pretty hard in the rain. But the hardest part for me was actually leaving because it really challenged me to stay as active and diligent in doing what needs to be done. And also just realizing that they're so in tune with the Spirit constantly and giving to other people and just bringing that back here to our own community. So.
I said something different first service, but giving some time to think about it, I think the hardest thing for me was just trusting God that He's got it, and seeing the way that He showed up whenever I was worried. I was worried we wouldn't get to this next place. I was worried this wouldn't go right. We wouldn't catch these fish. But anyways, but then He showed up and He calmed those worries. He provided for us, just like what Kayla said. So the hardest part was just learning to let go and just let God lead the team instead of me. So that was probably what I would say. Question 3, how did God speak to you during the trip?
Just the beauty. Just seeing, sorry, I answered the next question.
You're good.
I got mixed up. So whenever we were flying up in the plane and just going across the country, looking down and just seeing how small, everything looks 40,000 feet up and across the country. People on the other side, 3,000 miles away, have lives, and we have lives over here. I guess just seeing that our circle of influence isn't just within Mooresville, it's beyond that.
We didn't have our phones for an entire week, and so it was really nice not having the habit of picking up my phone and going on Instagram or something. So I really feel like God speaking to me to put my phone down at least one day in a week to focus on Him and maybe help my dad out with the yard work.
It spoke to me through teamwork, and every day we closed the day off with giving words of encouragement, and that was a really good way to build relationships and then work on cultivating those for the future. So.
Not having Wi-Fi for a week, not saying that I don't want it, but just seeing on the plane, seeing how each individual little blocks of the neighborhood, those are little Legos that build up an entire community that God can work in and do His good.
I saw God in this team this week because I've been on lots of mission trips and I've worked at a camp for 8 years, and we had lots of youth groups come in and help. And, sometimes they're really great and sometimes they are just a drain. They're out there, they're playing around, goofing off, flirting with each other, not doing any work. But everyone on this team came to work. They all love the Lord and they put Him first. They were definitely servants that week, and they did a lot of good, and I was very impressed, especially for how young most of them are.
As hard as we were working and as much as we had to get done, the Lord really spoke to me about resting in Him. Just like Lee mentioned, there were so many things to worry about. Is this going to get done? Are we going to get here? And Joel and Trish, those are things they have to think about. Are we going to have enough wood for the winter? Are we going to be able to help these people? But I really just felt the Lord speaking to me about resting in Him and trusting that He's going to get it done, to where we were able to get all their wood done before lunch one day. And just resting in Him and working and trusting that He's going to take care of it, and just letting Him surround us in His goodness. So.
Just like I said, with the most challenging thing, the way God spoke with me was, I don't have to worry, that He does have it taken care of, that He is handling things. He's going before us in the process. And it's okay to put your trust in Him. There's no way He's going to let you down. So that's really how God spoke to me. So it was kind of similar to the previous question, but where did you see God in this trip? What did you see? Where did God show up in this trip for you?
For me, it was in the beauty of the nature. There's more deer than tree in Alaska. Just the wildlife was so deer. I said it right this time, Dad.
More deer than trees.
More deer than cars. Sorry. There's more deer than cars in Alaska, and just to see the complexity of nature there. There were a couple of times where I just I had to sit back and take a deep breath. The first that came to mind was "Be still and know that I am God," and just kind of seeing that in the nature.
Same thing as Nathan, just going up to the viewpoints and just looking at it, and it really reminds you of how big God really is.
It's like nature's God's anxiety medicine, just the artistry in His creation, and just being able to enjoy the peacefulness and get away from all this COVID madness and these race wars. So.
It was really pretty, to see, the deer, there's more deer than there are cars. Because cars are annoying and they're loud, and it's just really quiet up there, and you get to relax. Well, not really, but if you get up really early, not like I did, but if you get up really early and just see the sun rising over the ocean and the mountains, it's really, really pretty.
I saw God in the way He provided for Joel and Trish, every need they had, every worry that we had. We were able to fulfill so many needs that they had, and we're just, we're not even 10 people. And He would plan we're going to be there all day long, and we would go and knock it out by lunch. And He'd be like, man, you guys are just incredible. And it's because God knew we were the only team that were going to make it up there that year, and He gave us the strength and the endurance that we needed, even though none of us were used to that. So in that, and also we provided needs, above and beyond working. We did communion with them, and they never get to do communion. Miss Trish dropped some wood on her foot and broke it in a few different places, and we got to lay hands on her and pray for her. So we didn't miss an opportunity to be a blessing.
That's good.
I saw God in the nature there, just like the guys were saying. It was just beautiful to take a couple moments and just close my eyes and breathe in nature around. The air is so crisp and clean, and just feeling His presence there and surrounding. I also saw God in a new light in Joel and Trish, just their hearts to give, and they just care, and they're so patient and so ready to work, and so I really saw God in the example that they gave.
I definitely saw God in the relationships and the fellowship that we had during that time. Like I said, last service I think every single one of you guys fell in love with Joel and Trish and Dave and their hearts and who they are and their mission there there, falling in love with Prince of Wales. So I just saw God in developing that heart for people, helping shift our hearts for what's important and what's not. So yeah. And then if you could give someone a piece of advice that wanted to come next year, what would it be?
This goes for any mission trip, but it's not what you expect. I came expecting one thing, and it was a totally different thing. So,
Bring rain pants.
Be prepared for some puns.
Some what?
Puns.
Puns. Yeah, Aaron had quite the many puns while we were there.
Prepare for anything. Rain, snow, heat. Bring Grundens, which is waterproof jackets, and waterproof pants, and extra toughs, which are just really good work boots. Well, not work boots. They're just waterproof boots. Just prepare for anything, really.
I would say definitely pray before you go. So weeks before we left, I was praying, help me to be of the most service I can possibly be, make as much use of the time as that I have. And he definitely found the spot for me.
Definitely with Gabe, bring rain pants. Luke told us we'd be okay with what we had. I didn't need to buy any. We got there and I was not okay with it. Neither was Gabe. It was really cold. But Miss Trish lent us some stuff and we were good. And next year we know what to bring. But really just surround yourself in the Spirit. Like Kayla said, just pray leading up to it, but constantly pray through it. Keep yourself surrounded in the Word. It's hard work. It's a different culture than we're used to, but just keeping yourself surrounded and energized in the Lord.
Yes.
He did, actually.
Yeah,
he had bibs.
One of my shortcomings was I said this type of gear would be fine. Like, you got a rain jacket, you'll be okay. It's not going to rain that much. Well, it rained every day but one. One of those when we were out on the water, and some of them didn't have rain pants, so they got soaked. It was an accident. Now I know for next year, right?
We forgave him for it, but he's getting a hard time.
I'm still hearing about it though. But I would say for me, advice for next year is if you want to come on this trip, just expand your worldview. Get ready, like what Nate said, don't expect to have, a soft bed to sleep on or something. You might be sleeping on a cot. You might be eating foods you don't want to eat or try. It's important that you come ready to try new things and to expect different things than what you're used to here. Last question. What about the lifestyle and the way they live in Alaska expanded your worldview?
They get it done. What they're doing is to survive. It's not, they don't just chop wood to chop wood. They do it to survive. They take advantage of every hour of daylight they get. It's only dark for like 4 hours. We were up before 6 o'clock every morning to get ready for work. So just don't be lazy, and we're blessed here with what we have.
Them having to chop wood every summer for winter, like Joel has to take his only day off to go out and work because they don't have heat or AC, so he doesn't get to take a good day off.
Learning that to live off the land and planning ahead is probably key to survival out there.
I thought everyone had gas stoves and heating and air conditioning, but
And Wi-Fi.
But apparently not. People still use wood stoves, so they have to go out every summer, chop a bunch of wood, stack it, which is really hard, and you just gotta get used to it and just be prepared.
Ministering in Alaska is a lot different than here. You can't just go to the grocery store and buy some cans and donate it to a food drive somewhere, or you can't walk door to door. And they're like the tribes that Joel and Trish go into and speak with, they are very skeptical of foreigners. They have a lot of different traditions and things, and they think that we're trying to change them or talk down to them, things like that. But Joel and Trish, they go out with love and with service, and it really wins them over. And now there are tribes there that they have spoken to, and those tribes have gotten word to other tribes that Joel and Trish have never even spoken to, never met, and they're saying, hey, why don't you come out and do some work for us out here? So instead of, like I said, going to the store and buying some cans, they go out to the coast and they'll spend 24 hours at a time harvesting sea asparagus and jarring it and giving it away so that people have food over the summer, things like that. So it's strenuous to work there, it's strenuous to minister there, but they definitely, the Lord has provided for them.
So I had a different answer in first service, but I didn't think about this one. And so my first service answer was basically an echo of all of them. But one of the things that really opened my eyes a little bit was Joel and Dave. They took us in, and they take teams in all the time, and they have to reteach these teams how to do this and how to be safe and really keep them energized and keep them motivated to work. And never once did they get grumpy with us. Never once were they rude or act like, oh my gosh, why are you asking that question? They were so patient. And like on the boat, Aaron and I went out on a boat with Dave, and I had never gone fishing before, and I do not like touching fish. And I would be like, what are you doing with that? Why is it like that? How do we do this? And Dave would just chuckle at me and give me just the most gentle and caring answer. And that's how they were all through the trip. So just really thinking about our patience with people and knowing that not everybody lives the same life we do, and understanding that we all have, different perspectives and knowledge, and just being Christ in our actions through that. So.
Yeah, I too had a different answer in my first service, but I would say that giving is so important beyond what we realize, that if you have something that you can give, or you have your time or your skills that you can give, do it. Bless other people, because it is so rewarding to be able to do that. And then Joel takes vacation days so that he can house teams like us, so that we can do work for other people, not even always for him. And his heart and the blessing that it was to pour into them, then they pour into other people. You guys don't often realize what your gift does. It goes far beyond just you handing it. It's so important. And if you get given a gift, pass it on. It's important that you learn to develop this heart of generosity for people. So that's all the questions that I have. Do we have time for a couple, or? Okay. If anyone has any question for maybe a specific person, we have time for one or two. Are there any? Actually, did you just want to ask it?
Yeah, are there any churches or denominations on the whole island? Anything that's formal, or is it all informal?
Yeah, great question.
That question's still on.
So she asked, are there any churches or formal gatherings, anything that we experience like this, is that on the island? And the question is not really. There used to be 4 to 5 churches that were there, and they were filled, but the Christian population has puttered out there a little bit, to where there's like 2 or 3 that have maybe 10 members in them. So their church isn't this. Their church is sharing communion around the countertop, having food together, getting to sit around a fire and talk Jesus. So what we see as Christianity, what we see as lifestyles as Christians, it's a lot different up there, which that testifies just to how amazing Jesus is, and how we don't need to have this building to talk about him or to praise him. That's a great question. Yeah. Yes.
Do you guys feel like, since they have to be so self-sufficient, you said survive, there's a lot of fear going around, like in the States right now. Do they have more of it or less fear and anxiety in their region? you tell?
Yeah, that's a good question. So he asked, is there more or less fear of, everything going on right now? What would you say is the feel in the atmosphere? I would say it's less. Honestly, there's a lot less people. So when we were in the midst and the big, peak of all of these COVID cases, they had 6 in one of their biggest cities. The people, they're a lot more reserved and by themselves, and they know that they can work through things. They've got a lot more gusto than we do sometimes. They know how to push through some hard times. So, yeah, that's a great question. Go ahead, Christian. You can be the last one.
Did you see any bears?
Did we see any bears?
Yes.
So I only saw the butt of a bear. We were driving on a mountain road, and I was looking off over here somewhere, and they went bear, 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 and I looked, and I just see a butt running into the woods. But they saw it, so yeah.
Yeah, we're just kind of going down the road. We're going downhill, so we're like this on a mountain, and I just see this big old bear just kind of emerge from the woods. I kind of did a double take because I was like, did Luke get out of the car? But it got scared and turned around and ran off.
Yeah, so we saw plenty of wildlife there. We saw some of them saw bears. We saw whales, sea otters, jellyfish, starfish, bald eagles, sea lions, a porpoise. Yeah, they got to see a porpoise. About anything you could see, we got to see. There's not any moose up there. A lot of people don't know that, but there's no moose. Not on that. So, but yeah, that's basically it. David, if you want to come on up and wrap us up.
So I do have one question. Jake, can you go back to the pictures where they're fishing? That right around in that area, there's a picture of Nathan, and I think Kayla's.
Yeah.
What was that?
Right there.
A rod and reel stuck in a tree. I looked at and then Nathan came to my rescue.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, so she went to cast it and realized it wasn't.
That's awesome.
I said she was crazy.
It totally wasn't reversed.
Yeah, we're good.
Oh, it wasn't?
That's awesome. Well, so here's my challenge to us as we're getting ready to dismiss. One, first of all, let's thank them for representing God and Abundant Life as they were there.
Great job, you guys.
Of course, that's the most important thing. They were representing Jesus while they were there to these missionaries, and now these missionaries have an opportunity to reach people on the island. So that's a great thing. And so my challenge to us today is, we out here, we did not go to Alaska like they did. The Ireland team didn't get to go this year. The Jamaica team didn't get to go this year. But what can we do in our neighborhoods now? I love your example, Jaden, about she looked down and she saw all these Lego towns and together, and just how God can work in all of those. God's building something. Where God has placed you, where can you reach people practically? What is something that you can do? And also, let's look ahead to next year. If this continues with travel restrictions and everything, we may not be able to do Ireland and Jamaica next year again, the way it's looking around the world. But maybe some of you can go to Alaska next year. I might plan on it. If we can't do the Ireland thing, I might want to go. So join us. Anyway, where has God planted you, and what can you do now? You don't have to go on a missions trip to minister. Amen. Let's stand up and we'll pray. Lord, we thank you for your goodness. We thank you for your love. We thank you, Jesus, for your sacrifice. God, you so loved the world that you sent your only son, Jesus, that whoever believes in him will not perish but will have eternal life. God, help us to be on that mission. Lord, I thank you that this team was able to be on that mission in a practical way, enabling Joel and Trish to share the good news practically just by meeting the needs of people. And Lord, I pray that would open the door to conversations of salvation. Lord, as we leave this place today, I pray that we are on the lookout, first of all, even for the creation that you've given us here in North Carolina, the beauty that's even here, that we would see your bigness, that we would see your goodness. And Lord, we would see the many people that are around us who need Jesus. Lord, help us to be on mission. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, God bless you. Stasha and I love you, and we hope to see you next week. Thank God again for this Alaska team.
Yeah, talk about wood.